ordeal, what happened in Mexico? Like you were riding your motorcycle going really fast and then you hit a deer or something. Is that what happened?
Yeah, I was down. My dad had contracted COVID and wasn't doing that good. So I threw the dog and the wife, and I always dragged the motorbike along so we could go down there and see if we could help out. By the time we got down there, he's doing a lot better. And after 3 days of treatment from some local doctors and nurses, he was doing a lot better. I thought on the fourth day it'd be a nice Saturday morning to go for a little local loop that I do down there, about 60 miles. And I was riding along in all familiar trails, and I was really feeling good. I was riding within myself because I was by myself, so a little bit careful, but I was really just like power sliding every corner and riding some beautiful wheelies and just enjoying it. It's a gorgeous day, and I just turned onto a little bit more of a 2-track dirt road and just shifted into fifth gear and got a little speed going. Maybe I was going like 55 miles an hour, and out of the corner of my eye, I saw something rustle in the bushes, and it turned out it was a big buck deer. And he literally, by the time I even thought to get to the brakes, he literally had jumped straight into my path, and we had a huge collision and impact. I flew over the bars, of course, and was pretty beat up. And for the next 30 hours was pretty much a struggle for survival with a punctured aorta, deflated right lung, 15 fractures in my ribs, a fractured vertebrae in my back, and the scapula broken in 2 places. So now I'm home, and it was a big ordeal to get home, and I really beat the odds. The doctor said that my chances of survival after 2 hours were less than 1%. So I guess I was pretty lucky to make it home. I got to Mission Hospital, and then the surgeries just started. I went through 4 operations, and they got me all patched up and everything. And I'm still a little beat up and hoarse, short of breath, but feeling a little better. I think it's been about like 17 days or something. And I have one more surgery to go because my right shoulder's just destroyed. But they were more worried about putting a stent in my heart and reinflating my lung, and then patching up the lung, the sac around the lung, and all the ribs. They just let my shoulder thing go. So I feel strong enough now. Maybe next week I'm going to get the shoulder fixed, and then I'm going to be working every single day to get stronger.
So you actually, after your crash with that hitting that stupid deer, how long was it? Or how long were? Because I know that you were really hurt. I mean, that's really terrible. And then you were like on the ground, and then how long did it take you to like get back to camp into your dad's house? How did you do that immediately, or did it take several hours to like get on the bike? And I mean, how did you ride? I mean, you're a champion, you're a survivor. And if anyone could do it, I know Brad can do it. But how long did that, because that was terrible. Did it take you like a few hours to get going, or did you do it fast?
It took me about 25 minutes to get my composure, because I like finally caught my breath. I had the like mega wind knocked out of me, and I was just gasping and gasping for any breath. I finally got a few breaths, and I got up to my hands and knees, got a drink of water, and then I went back down a couple times. I eventually got on my feet, went back down to my hands and knees a couple times. I didn't realize that all my ribs were poking through my lung in several places, and that my heart was disconnected from my aorta. So I eventually kind of composed myself, and then the challenge was to pick the bike up. The bike was in kind of a funny position, and when I went to pick up on the bars, I felt every bone in my rib cage just popping and poking me in the side. And so I just like edged the bike around an inch at a time. I dug a couple holes under the wheels with my foot, and I knew I had one chance to get it up, and I took that chance. I got the bike up, and I eventually rode 18 miles back to the house, and it took me about 45 minutes on the bike. And I got to tell you, Brian, the whole time I was using every ounce of my strength and concentration just to keep from passing out. I was seeing stars, and the road's rough, and my right arm was just hanging from the bars. So every time I hit a bump, I would give it the gas, and I just eventually made it back to the house and crawled in and got in a chair. And I never moved from that chair until like, I don't know, 14 hours later or something, when it was time to go get rescued at the airport.
Wow. Wow. So how did you ride with your right arm, like wasted? It still is bad right now. Your shoulder is totally destroyed, but how did you give it gas with your right arm? How did you do that?
I just like used my left arm to get my hand up on the throttle, and then I just looped my fingers, and my fingers and my forearm were good, and I just looped around the throttle. But every time I would hit a bump, I had no control of my elbow, just making me like give it those mini, throttle inputs that you hate when you're like getting out of control. You hit a bad bump and you just hit the throttle when you don't need to. And I was riding home about 20 miles an hour, and it was 18 miles home. All I could think of was getting home to my beautiful wife, Jaylene, and getting a drink of water. And somehow or another, I just willed myself home. I sat in the chair. I got a drink of water. And from there, I just kind of like, I started sliding downhill from there pretty quickly. You'd be surprised by the next morning. I looked pretty rough. We knew it was a terrible situation. And my son, Colton, was able to get a friend of his to immediately drop everything, get in his Citation jet, and fly Colton and his wife and my little grandson down there. They drove the truck home, and I got flown home at 555 miles an hour in the Citation jet of a gentleman named Jim Putman, who owns Power Grade, which is a huge international grading company. And he was kind enough to hand over the keys and a tank of gas, which is a lot more money than I want to talk about here. And he sponsored the whole thing to send me home. And I got to Mission Hospital not a minute too soon, because the doctor said that I should have never lived past 45 minutes, maximum 2 hours. So it was kind of a miracle. By the time I got to the hospital, I had 2,000 cc's of blood in my chest cavity. All my organs were pressed up against the left side, and they stuck that chest tube in me and drained all that off. I can't tell you what a relief that was. Straight into heart surgery, and then from there, a couple more surgeries to fix my lung and patch up my ribs. And I've been home now on the couch for some time, and I can't tell you, Brian, I hate to go on and be long, but I can't tell you how many people have reached out to me, like my wife's family from Kansas, who I've never met, old Speedway rivals who I had pretty contentious rivalries with, and Barry Briggs, Ivan Major's daughter, and just people from England, from Speedway in England, and when I rode for Wimbledon, and then a whole nother group of people from the off-road community, because my sons are champion off-road racers. And it ended up being so many people reaching out and going on the GoFundMe thing and everything else, that it just absolutely, I've just never known that much love. It was beautiful, Brian, and I'm sorry I'm emotional, but I can't tell you how lucky I am to be alive and have hundreds of friends.
That's beautiful. Brad, you are loved, and the whole Speedway community and everybody loves Brad Oxley. You've given so much of your life for Speedway, your father, everything you guys have done for the riders and for everybody. And you guys are just great human beings.
I try to do a little update, Brian. I have to apologize to people whose phone calls I haven't returned. There's no way I could ever return the amount of phone calls I've gotten. Like, people have been so kind to me. It's really been a rough experience for me to feel so much outreach, because I want to be a tough guy, and at the track as a promoter, I got to say no a lot, and I have to be strict and firm and everything. And now I feel like I have to be a better person, and I don't, it's going to be hard to live up to all the love I've gotten I have an uphill battle. I got to love Christmas and put up the Christmas lights. And there's no more bah humbug for me. I'm losing a big part of my life where I can be a contrarian.
Well, I mean, that's a positive, actually. This experience, it has been a revolutionary, a changing experience in your life. And you felt the love, the warmth from everybody in the motorsport community, not only Speedway, but everywhere. And, everyone was devastated. And, we're kind of like all feeling the pain, of the experience. And we're all wishing you, like the best. I mean, everybody. We really do. I mean, everybody, I saw that, and everyone just really, is behind you and with you, Brad.